Hey everyone, welcome to the Identity Love Podcast, episode 19. I am Tracy Konane. I am a life coach and identity specialist for folks who have lost themselves in their relationships and in life and don't know how to just enjoy being themselves. And that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about in this episode because I just got back from Vegas, and normally these podcasts are ahead of time, but I got a little bit backed up, so I didn't get a chance to record this ahead of time. So you're getting this exactly as it's happening. This was significant to me because I used to visit Las Vegas as a child. My parents took us there because my grandparents would go all the time. In Hawaii, Vegas is considered the ninth island because so many people from Hawaii just love to go to Vegas. And so I remember being in fourth grade or something and just being in Vegas for the first time and it being 10 o'clock at night. So it's past my bedtime. And my dad's like, you want to come and go walk around? And so we're staying at the Four Queens Hotel and we walked around and there was people out doing stuff and the lights were so bright and things were going on. And for my night owl little kid soul who always had to go to bed and nothing ever exciting happened, it felt so amazing to be able to go out and see all this stuff happening in this place. And it was extra exciting because I knew a lot of taboo adult stuff was going on. You're not supposed to be in the casino. You're not supposed to look at those posters with the girls' butt showing. There's a lot of things that I felt were kind of exciting and exotic out there. And so I remember this from being a kid. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I want more of this in my life, which I'm sure over time influenced me in wanting to move to eventually Hollywood and just get out of my home, which I love, but it just felt really small after 27 years. And now I just love the excitement of big cities because stuff is going on. And so I just remember going in the 90s and seeing all the old school hotels like the Fremont and the Tropicana and the Flamingo and all the different hotels that would show up in the guidebooks that I would meticulously and excitedly study before we went on the trip. And so I just have good memories about it. And so, interestingly, I did not make it out back to Vegas as an adult who could actually hang out in casinos and have a drink until I think I was in my 30s. And so this was towards the beginning of my current relationship. And it was something that I was really looking forward to because I was thinking, oh my God, I get to go back to this place that was so exciting to me as a child and get to experience it as an adult, which is what it's supposed to be for. It's like an adult city, right? And so it was a big deal to me. And I was excited that I was going with my boyfriend. And he was actually invited for a convention because he's a professional illustrator. He does art for Magic the Gathering and many other things. He's a freelance artist, but he does the art for the card game. And they were having this whole convention and tournament going on there. And so they invited him as an artist guest, and he would have his own booth where he signs the cards. And so I got to come along, and I thought this was so cool. And we went, and it was a good experience. I got to see all the things I wanted to see and experience Vegas as an adult. But something wasn't right. And if you've been listening to the podcast or if you know anything about me, I have struggled for a long, long time with my identity, with knowing how to just be myself, how to feel confident, quietly, peacefully confident within myself, to have the self-esteem, to know who I am and how to just relax and be myself. And instead for most of my life, actually, many years, I have given in to getting my identity from other people. I would be kind of a chameleon, not in a way where I was purposely fake or lying about what I was into or anything like that, but it was that I would take inspiration from someone else and think, oh, maybe that's what I should be like. Maybe that's the right way to be, because I felt like I was not allowed to be myself. Like being myself was wrong. And so I would always look at someone else and think, okay, maybe they have it all figured out and I should be more like that. And so that went on for a long time. And I was the worst when it came to relationships, because I would really start to feel like I was enmeshed and rely on that person for identifying as myself, as the perfect partner, as whatever it is that I thought that was good in their eyes. And that became my main identity, like this external thing. And this shows up in many different things like codependency, jealousy, possessiveness, feeling like your emotions are all over the place, borderline personality disorder symptoms, identity disturbance, identity crises. A lot of these things come from us simply not knowing how to just be ourselves, how to just be ourselves in the way that we feel good. And instead, it's so confusing. It's not our fault. This is what society tells us. It's so confusing when we think that we have to look outside of ourselves and figure out how to be ourselves based on what other people think. Because we were brought up being scrutinized, being told certain things, being bullied, having some kind of traumatic event happened, big or small, that made us feel like we're not allowed to just relax and know what it is to be ourselves. We have to do more. We have to be more. We have to be enough. We have to be pumping the iron, so to speak. If you listen to the previous episode, I talk about how it's kind of like bodybuilding, where we're trying to make ourselves so much extremely enough that we go to extremes to prove ourselves. And that becomes our whole identity. And so we don't know anything else. We don't know how to experience ourselves in any other way. And so this was where I was at during the first trip. And while everything went perfectly fine, everything went well, nothing bad actually happened, I wasn't able to relax and feel present and enjoy myself while on this trip that I was really looking forward to. And I thought, this is what I've been wanting my whole adult life. And everything is going great, so I should be having a great time. Something felt very off, and it was because my identity was being constructed by outside approval, in that I was striving to get, and I didn't know how to get it on my own. I just wanted to talk about this because when we have an unstable identity within ourselves where we don't know how to just be ourselves, it might become hyperactive while traveling, while going on a big adventure, because it's something special. And especially if you're going with someone else, especially if it's someone you're in a relationship with, it is a big deal because you want to be really good. You want to make sure they have a good time. You want to make sure you are at your best. So you're not wasting your money. You're not wasting your experiences. This is the time to prove yourself. And I wanted to really talk about this because that's when I experienced it the worst. And so if you can relate, I hope that you find this episode insightful and maybe you don't feel as alone. So during this first trip, the best way I can describe my state of mind and my experience of it was being extremely self-conscious, where I wanted to make sure that everything went amazing. He was happy with me. He thought I looked amazing. I was great for every single situation that could occur in there. I made things fun. Everything went well because I was there. And just to score all these points so I can solidify myself and say like, yes, I am an amazing partner. I am wanted and needed, and this is who I am. And then I'm going to feel so good. This is a brilliant opportunity for me to prove myself, for me to be at my best behavior, to look my best, to do everything right. So I feel loved. And so I feel like I am an amazing person. I was so anxious about trying to envision every single situation that may or may not happen while on this trip. So that ranged from just like, oh, are we going to go in the pool? Are we going to go to a rock and roll bar? Are we going to go just walk the strip one night and not even go anywhere? Are we going to go to a high class bar, club? Are we going to go and dine at a fancy restaurant? Are we going to have some fancy photo ops? Are we just going to be more casual? Are we going to be hanging out with some nerdy people that we run into while at the convention? Are we just going to want to chill and take it easy? Is he going to want to hang out in the casinos? Am I just going to want to walk around by myself? Or I had to think about every single situation because I wanted to make sure that I knew who I needed to be for that and how I would want to be dressed. I don't want to stand out too much if we're just going to be doing casual stuff. So I want to make sure I have a nice casual outfit that could be dressed up though, if in case we happen to just spontaneously walk into a bar that is more upscale and fancy, I don't want to stand out too much there. So I want to fit in. So I want to bring something that's maybe a cover up that's fancy. And then maybe I'll bring some extra jewelry on me. Oh, but my shoes, if we're going to be walking a lot, I want to wear comfortable shoes because I know I'm going to get grumpy if I start to have blisters, but I want to look good. And so maybe I'll just have to bring some heels with me wherever I go. Oh, that means I can't bring like a cute little purse. I'm going to have to bring a backpack wherever I go. What if we go somewhere that doesn't allow backpacks in? Oh, okay. So what am I going to wear? Oh my goodness. Do you see what I'm doing? And yes, it is important to want to be dressed nicely for whatever situation is happening. But I was taking this to an extreme where it felt like it was completely vital for me to do this. And that if I didn't get something right, I'm going to look stupid. He's not going to be taken with me. He's going to be like, oh my gosh, she doesn't even fit in here. She doesn't look good enough. There's all these Vegas girls here that look beautiful and amazing. Why does my girlfriend not look like this? Which is totally not what he does at all. But this was in my head. And in my head, I was thinking that I have to worry about things and make everything as perfect as possible and make myself as good as possible by looking the part and acting the part of the perfect Vegas partner in order for this trip to be a success, in order for him to feel happy with me, in order for me to be the best partner ever and keep my identity as such. And so all these things were going on in my head. At the same time, I was thinking, I don't want to come off as that pretentious, high maintenance girlfriend who overpacks and brings 10 suitcases for this weekend trip. I don't want him to see that. I want him to think I'm very cool and chill and low maintenance. So I'm not going to act like I'm caring, but I'm carrying a lot inside. So I don't want to overpack, but I don't want to underpack. And oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my hair? It was this whole thing leading up to the trip where I was fretting and fretting and fretting about everything. And I ahead of time had looked up all these different Vegas outfits on Pinterest probably and looked at what you're supposed to wear for different scenarios. I did so much research and looked up all these things that were outside of my comfort zone. And I didn't even have a chance to really try on and see, did I like it? Instead, I said, no, this seems like it would fit the occasion. So I'm going to get this. And so by the time we get there, I am anxious, on edge, needing a drink. And so, yep, I drank a whole lot during that trip. And it was because I needed to take the edge off. I needed to calm down and just kind of get myself back to normal. And I needed to drink more because I was wearing outfits that I did not feel like me. I was carrying around the shoes. I was reanalyzing, should I go and buy more comfortable heels at the mall while he's at the convention? Like it was a constant work in my head. And I would constantly look around and be thinking, oh no, how do I look right now? What is that person over there thinking? There's some hot people over there. I don't think I'm up to par. Why didn't I dress nicer today? He doesn't seem like he's very into me right now. It's probably because I don't look very good and because I'm kind of tired because I'm hungover because I just drank too much last night and I slept in and I didn't have any time to get myself together properly in the morning. I've just been trying to work off my hangover by drinking a lot of tea and now I'm extra anxious. And so it was this whole thing. And we went to the Chandelier Bar and we went to Tao for dinner and we walked around the Venetian and the Strip and everything was wonderful. Everything was wonderful. I got amazing pictures. He said I looked nice several times, which is like a big score, big home run win for me. And it was good. Everything went fine. And I think we hung out with a few of his artist friends or something like that. I barely remember now. And it was because I was just so outside of myself. And that's what I like to call it is it felt like I was outside of myself and inside everybody else's head. And everybody else's eyes and trying to think, oh my God, what are they thinking? How are they feeling? What is he thinking? How is he feeling? Why did he say that thing? Is he trying to insinuate something about the way that I am being? And it was so hard for me to be energized and positive. I remember I felt on edge one night because something had happened. I don't know. It wasn't between us. It was just something that I felt uncomfortable with. And I just felt like I was trying so hard to control my emotions because I was trying so hard to make sure everything was okay. And I'm like, does he think that I'm feeling weird? Why am I so upset right now? Everything's fine. I feel so upset. And so it was this constant preoccupation and distraction. And even though I was so relieved that everything went well, I remember just feeling so tired afterwards and kind of disappointed in the way where everything had gone so well and I had tried so hard, but I felt like I never got a chance to actually feel present and fulfilled and enjoyment of that trip, even though I had done everything to the utmost of my capability at that time. And I would look back on the photos and I was like, do I like my outfit? Was that worth it? Was all this blisters worth it? Did I do the right thing? Did he really think that I looked good, or was he just saying that? Like, that chandelier bar looked so beautiful, but I don't think I was even present for that. I was just thinking about, am I up to par with this place? What are we going to do after? So maybe this isn't the way that you stress out about your identity. Maybe it's not about the clothes. My big thing was the clothes, so I talk about it. To me, it was the clothes and the self-care. Maybe you do feel comfortable in your own clothes and your self-care, but there's something else. Maybe it's about the way that you talk. Maybe it's about the things you say. Maybe it's the way that you feel around certain people and places, and you feel like you're just not able to just relax and be yourself. There's so many ways in which this can show up. So I'm just sharing how it showed up for me. And I encourage you to think about what is your thing that gets you into a tizzy like this and feels like you are so outside of yourself that you feel like you have to get perfect in order for you to be the identity of the amazing person or whoever it is that you're trying to please. I encourage you to think about this. And so, yeah, this first trip afterwards, when it was done, I felt like, okay, now what? Was that even worth it? Was that a good trip? Because I can't tell what everyone else is thinking. And I made this note. It's like, things I didn't wear: long sleeve blazer, swimsuit, white thin bubble shirt, black studded shorts, guest dress, maroon cocktail dress, black peephole dress, long sleeve white crop top, tie-dye cover up, strappy wedges. So I brought a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't end up wearing. The way that I did the trip, the way that I was dressing, the way that I was feeling, the way that I was experiencing it. And I thought, I didn't do it. I was trying so hard and I didn't succeed. I didn't get that validation that I thought I was going to get if I was just doing everything to my utmost degree. Now, I want to make it clear that even though it seems like I'm totally ragging on this era of my life, I am so, so glad that I took such detailed notes and that I took photos and that I made a note of where I was at, because deep down I knew that one day I'd be looking back on this and seeing such big progress. And that's what I get to experience right now. And so when I'm looking back on this, I don't see someone where I'm like, oh my God, so cringe, ew. I see it as, wow, look at where I was at, where I knew, okay, I'm going to have to create something new in my life. I want to take notes of where I'm starting from because I know that I'm meant to change and see myself as art and create something different because this isn't working. And so that's what happened in between then and now. In between that trip and the one that I went on last week, what happened, and this was like, it's been a handful of years, and a lot has happened inside of myself since then, where I basically got fed up. I said, you know what? I've been trying so hard, and I did this for several trips. Okay. This was something that I knew I kept doing over and over again, but I didn't know how to do anything else. And so I got fed up and I thought, you know what? I have to try something different because it's not working. I am tired of going on these trips and not being present, not feeling like I'm emotionally stable, not feeling like I know how to just enjoy and be myself and be in myself instead of outside of myself, trying to analyze myself from every direction. And so I began to go down a path that I never went down before, which is to let go of all the things I needed to do, all the pleasing, all looking for what is supposed to be the right way to be, about focusing on how everyone else is experiencing me, and to tune in, and tune in to my own experience of myself, which took practice. It was a whole paradigm shift of how I lived my entire life, what I focused on, what my priorities were. And I had to really observe myself and prove to myself that these little things that felt so unexciting compared to the high of the people pleasing, that these little things that I was doing for myself were actually exactly what I've been wanting this whole time. And that by coming back in and focusing on my own experience of myself and doing things that just made sense to me without me trying to explain it to somebody else or overanalyze it or think, is this the right thing to do? I began to start owning bits and pieces of who I really was. And that over time would lead to me finally feeling stable within myself, finally knowing what it is that I would want to wear on a trip, finally being able to let go of the constant preoccupation of thinking, am I okay? Am I right? Am I doing enough? And to just be present in myself if I just knew what it was that I liked. And so for these years in between, I put a lot of focus on what made me actually feel good. And there was a lot of trial and error. There was a lot of me trying certain looks. And I'm like, okay, I just don't like that. Even though it kind of makes sense. Like I go back and forth between earrings, the dangly long earrings. I love the way it looks in other people. I love the idea of it. But whenever I get them, something about them dangling around, hanging around my face, I don't end up wearing them. So I had to train myself to say, I know you feel drawn to the earrings and you think that it's supposed to be really good and beautiful for you, but let's hold off on that because that's not what you actually want to wear. So it was a lot of like being interested and being curious about finding out who I really am. It's like, okay, you like the idea of the long dangly earrings, but you're not actually going to wear them. It's just about noticing what actually happens, how I'm actually feeling. So over this time, I began to just do things in a new way by focusing on me, taking notes on myself, seeing myself as a piece of art in progress, and then doing things that only made sense to me, that made sense to my well-being, that made me feel more stable and good about myself, and slowly letting go of all of the opinions of people and me thinking that I needed to be right for everyone in order for me to feel good about myself. I kept reminding myself, and this is why I kept all these detailed journal notes, is because I wanted to show myself, look, this way that you've been doing it your whole life, it isn't working. It is not working for you to go on these trips that you're so excited about. And then you do all this stuff. And then afterwards you feel like you didn't get your fulfillment of it. It's not working. I had to really spell it out to myself and keep reminding myself. The reminders kept me on track. And so I encourage you to remind yourself in some shape or form of where you are right now, because believe me, one day you're going to look back and be like, oh my gosh, I forgot I was like that once. I forgot that I was so deep in it. Because when it shifts, it's so quick when the transformation happens. You're going to easily forget exactly what it was like. So this actually makes me feel good to look back and see that, yes, all of this has paid off. And so I stuck with it. Over the years, I found out what I like to wear, what I'm drawn to, what makes me feel good in the morning. And I remember before the first trip, I was doing yoga furiously. I was doing it and making sure I did it because I wanted to look good when I went there. To my boyfriend, I wanted to look good if I went in the pool. It was about looking good. It was about external validation. Now, I just do it in the morning while I'm having my coffee. I just do my yoga stretches. No big deal. I mean, of course it's to look hot. That's a nice byproduct of it. But the main thing is that I feel good after it. Even if I don't feel excited to get on the mat, I'm just like, I know I just always inexplicably feel better after it. And so once I start stretching, and I do have a lot of tension in my neck and shoulders and jaw, probably because of all the people pleasing that has been hard baked into my body. So I've been slowly trying to loosen it out during the years. It feels good to just stretch. And I'm not thinking about looking good for anybody. I'm not thinking about how this is going to get me ahead in other people's eyes. it literally is just me being like, okay, this feels good. This is going to make me feel so much better for the rest of the day. I just feel better about myself when I do this. And so it becomes something that I just have to do. It's kind of like, it just makes sense. I need a stretch because I just feel I'm in such a better mood for the rest of the day. And I just physically feel better. Same with my green smoothie. I have never been a health nut. Oh my God. If you'd listened to my previous episodes, I talked about everything I used to eat in my 20s, just the worst things, the most highly processed things. I hated vegetables. I still don't love vegetables, but I have a green fruit and spinach smoothie every morning just to get my liquid salad in. And I feel good after I have that. I notice I feel energized. And so everything that I'm doing, it is for me because I have noticed the benefits of it on myself. Same with my clothes, same with my hair, same with the things that I do for the self-care. Now I've been working on actually understanding skincare. I've heard about it my whole life. I never could give a shit because I'm like, that sounds so technical. I don't know. My skin looks fine, even though there's a lot of things I didn't like about it. But now I'm actually doing it, and it's not to look beautiful, so to speak. It is because I feel good knowing that I am treating myself in the best way possible for the future, for right now. And I just feel good. I'm like, oh, I understand. There's more to it than just some vanity thing. I mean, I feel like my skin looks better, but it is also that I feel good about myself when I'm doing it. And this is something that I never understood back in the day when I was on that previous trip. I didn't understand that there was more to it, that there was a whole world that is beneficial for yourself when you start doing all these self-care things that back then felt like such a slog. It felt so high maintenance. It felt like I was just totally being one of those girls who needed to primp and do all these things that I back then judged as extraneous and ridiculous. But now I'm seeing, okay, there's a whole different way of doing this. Now I am in myself. I am in my body. I am in my own world. I'm not all up in other people's heads trying to impress them. I impress myself. I say, I feel good when I do these things for myself. And so, like I said, this is the way that is the most visual and the most drastic change for myself. For you, it could be different. And so pay attention to whatever it is that you yourself would like to change and imagine it being completely different. Imagine doing the things that you struggle with now, but feeling so comfortable and good about it. Not always being like, oh, yay, I can't wait to work out or anything like that, but it's just doing it and just not having drama about it, feeling good and immediately having the benefit of feeling like you're doing something good for yourself and building your own identity from the inside out as somebody who takes great care of themselves, as somebody who has their own preferences and tends to themselves, as somebody who dresses the way exactly that they want to and presents themselves to the world exactly as they want to, not to impress other people or to change other people's opinions about you, but because you feel like you in it. And so that's what it was like for this trip. So I'm just going to explain this to you because I have to make myself marvel at this as well. Because like I said, once you start to shift more into yourself, you easily forget how far you've come. And so in my mind, I want to write this off and say, oh my gosh, this is what you're excited about. This is the most normal thing ever. This is what normal people are supposed to do. But the change is huge. During this trip, the only thing I was anxious about was my car because it was high time for me to take it into the shop. I had to get new tires, had to get the brakes redone. That's necessary. And I felt good after doing that. I felt fresh. I was like, those new tires, those new brakes, I'm ready. That felt like self-care to me. And in the past, this would have been the most unsexy thing ever. I would have just been like, I'd rather be shopping for dresses. I'd rather be making sure that my outfit's good. I felt so much better once he said my car was ready for the road trip. And then after that, I admit I did go and buy 2 dresses that were on sale at the shop across the street. And I did have Vegas in mind. I didn't end up bringing them with me, but I feel like they are me, so I'm going to wear them down the line. Anyway, When I was packing for this trip, I put together a few outfits ahead of time and I took photos of them in the mirror just to remind myself of what I had envisioned for myself. But it was very, very minimal compared to what I had packed on that previous trip. And I admit it, I brought not one, but 2 leopard fur coats. That was a little excessive, but I did it anyway because I wanted the option to have my more casual, as I call it, coat, and then my more luxury looking coat, just in case we decided to go somewhere a little more fancy, that was going to be my way of dressing up. But I did it because I wanted to do that. And I was like, we're taking the car, I'm driving, I might as well just bring it anyway. Everything else, though, was so specific to what I knew would make me feel good. I brought my blender. I brought my little travel fold-up yoga mat. I brought my skincare stuff. Just basically brought my normal routine over there. It wasn't like I had to figure out this whole new thing. It wasn't like I had to figure out what my style was going to be in Vegas. I already had everything down and I just threw it in a suitcase and it was pretty straightforward. I didn't start packing until the night before and it was easy. And when we picked out the hotel room, I made sure that I did the research to make sure that the hotel room that I picked had a refrigerator in it because it was very important for me to have a refrigerator so I can keep my fruit and vegetables there so I can have my smoothie in the morning. And that's stuff like that. And I picked MGM Signature, not affiliated with them by any means. This place I thought was gold. It is so hard to find a legit fridge in Vegas, one that's not full of minibar stuff that they're going to charge you. They may or may not charge you if you move something because it's got a sensor under it. It is so hard to find a legit fridge, let alone a whole kitchenette with a microwave and a little stovetop and a kitchen sink and everything. It is so hard to find that. And the MGM Signature has it. I'm pretty sure in every room. My boyfriend and I both chose it. But it was because I put it out there. I said, hey, it's important to me to have a place, preferably with a fridge. So I was putting myself first. I did not feel bad about it. I was very focused on making sure that I got my stretches done every morning. I put it out on the hotel floor. I did my stretches. I put nice music on. And let me tell you, on the first Vegas trip, there was none of that. I was too hungover. I was too just focused, oh no, where is he? What time is he coming back from the convention? It was constantly been distracted. I did nothing of self-care for myself. This trip was completely different. It was my whole morning routine and I let myself be extra. I allowed myself to do everything that I knew made me feel good about myself. And there was none of this extra drama going on in my head. There's none of this, oh my God, what's he thinking? Am I wearing the right thing? We went to the Sphere to watch the YouTube concert. This is for his birthday. This is for my boyfriend's birthday. So let me just say that. So this was supposed to be something that normally would have sent me into a huge anxious tizzy. I was like, yeah, I like this. I actually wore this coat and this hat. My normal. I have been wearing this all winter because it's so warm and I get cold easily. And so everything just made sense to me. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm warm because Vegas looks like it's cold right now. So it was so interesting how I was just so in myself as opposed to, what if we go here? What could happen here? What if we end up at this place? And the thing is, I was totally aware, as we're walking around the MGM Grand, that I was the only person who had on a faux fur leopard coat. And everyone else was kind of just in vacation sweats or whatever. And I didn't care. I was like, this is what I'm wearing. In the past, I would have been like, oh no, I should not wear this because this is going to look so extra. People are going to be judging me. They're going to think I'm high maintenance. My boyfriend's going to think I'm high maintenance. He's going to be embarrassed of me. It was a huge shift. And so what was different about this was I was the most present and it was the most enjoyable of the Vegas trips. This was by far the most present I have ever been. I had 2 glasses of wine the entire time. Normally, in a night in Vegas, I would have gotten so drunk that I wouldn't remember getting back to the hotel because I was so busy trying to make myself feel somewhat calm and comfortable and have a personality because I'd be so distracted otherwise. I had 2 drinks the entire trip and I wasn't trying to be holding back or anything. I was just like, I don't need one right now. oh, I don't need it. And finally I was like, yeah, I'll have one. And so I drank on my own terms. And this isn't about saying, oh, I'm better because I'm not drinking as much. It's because I didn't want to drink. Maybe I'm going to want to let loose next time. But this time I was just so cool with everything. And my boyfriend's older sister came down because it was her birthday as well. And so it was like a double birthday party. We all went to the Sphere. I was so present. I didn't feel self-conscious around her. In the past, I had a lot of social anxiety come up. And it's because I didn't know how to just be myself. I was so up in my head that I couldn't put together intelligent sentences. I couldn't focus on what was going on in the moment. I couldn't focus on making intelligent conversation because my brain was so distracted by making sure that I was okay. What was someone so thinking? What is everyone thinking? When you decide to go and find your own identity, it is going to change everything. It is going to shift things, and it's going to feel scary at first. And you're going to feel like, how is this ever going to benefit me? But there is. I told you about what my first trip was like. If I can go from that, and I used to be way worse in my 20s too. So that wasn't even the worst of it. But if I can go from that to how I happen to experience this trip now, I want to tell you that it is 100% possible for you once you start to focus in and value your own experience of yourself. Focusing in on realizing that when you take really good care of yourself and when you pay attention to all the things that make you feel good and to have no shame about that, to start to de-shame it. I'm like, this is what I need to make myself feel good. And it paid off because I was so present. I didn't have to try to be in a good mood. I didn't have to try to be energized. I was just excited and I was taking everything in. And it wasn't like this, oh my God, I'm trying so hard to be excited thing. It was that I was naturally just present and communicative and absorbed into what was going on. And I felt like I was able to actually relax and enjoy a trip. We didn't do anything more extravagant or sexy than all the other trips. In fact, this was probably the least extravagant, other than going to the Sphere, which was amazing. This is the least extravagant thing. If you watched my stories on Instagram, you would have seen that we looked at these old Vegas hotels like the Tropicana, which is about to be torn down this year. And I got to nerd out on all these old Vegas hotels that I have a fascination with because they remind me of me growing up. And it's so eerie and kind of cool to read about the history and the secrets and what became what. And Vegas changes so much. It's kind of an interesting, haunting feeling to see old hotels getting torn down and then what comes up in its place and all the stuff that happens in between there. It was exciting for me to see the old Sahara hotel that's been in the same spot its entire time from the 50s. And then it became the SLS, which we stayed there a handful of years ago. And then now when we went back, it was the Sahara again, completely rebranded. It was a magnificent rebrand. It looked like classy, yet still kind of the old Vegas allure. And it was just great. And then I nerded out over a whole bunch of stuff. And I would have been way too distracted in a past trip for me to have done that this time. And luckily my boyfriend lets me nerd out. He thinks it's cool. He just sits back and has his beer and lets me be a nerd, looking up stuff on Wikipedia while we're hanging out at a bar. I remember all the details of this trip and how interesting and engaged I was. Even though it wasn't like in this high exaltation way where I'm like, oh my God, he's complimenting me and he's so happy and he's saying this about me and he's praising me. It was none of that. It wasn't this high. It was just this very peaceful enjoyment and just a relief of not constantly worrying about myself. When I come back, I was not exhausted at all. I felt energized. I was like, that was a great trip. And I was so proud of myself. And even while being proud of myself, my brain was like, really? You're proud of yourself for this? This isn't that big a deal. But when I look back at my journals and I confirm everything, this is a big deal. So I just want to let you know, it is going to eventually come once you start to focus on your own experience, what makes you feel good. When I was over here doing all this self-care, I was in such a better mood for everybody else. And so it was the least selfish thing. In fact, ironically, and I just have to spell this out because if I was hearing this when I was still on my first trip, if I heard someone saying this, I would have barely believed it. I would have thought, well, this sounds nice, but it's hard for me to actually imagine that's true. I just had to focus on things that made me genuinely feel good and what made me feel alive and what I was drawn to, and accepting and loving what it is that I wanted for myself, and not trying to make everything make sense to everybody else, and letting myself be weird and inexplicable and nuanced and distinct, and seeing myself as a work of art. And ironically, trying so much less, thinking so much less of everybody else and trying to make everyone else happy, and just having so-called fun, because it was a lot of hard work, but it was a lot of just relaxing into myself, chilling out, and focusing on what made me feel good, and allowing myself to enjoy those things, and allowing myself to have and pursue those things, and being patient and allowing myself to have the joy of it, this quiet, inner, peaceful joy. And that in doing all these things for myself, not trying to impress anyone else, it made me into the person I most wished I could have been on my first Vegas trip. I felt so comfortable in my skin. I loved everything that I wore. I was not distracted or up in anybody else's heads. I did everything that made sense to me. Our hotel had a jacuzzi in the bathroom. The bathtub was like, it had jacuzzi jets. So if you filled it up, it could have been a jacuzzi. And in my head, the first thing I thought was, oh my God, we have to use it because there's a freaking jacuzzi in our room. And then 1 second later, I was like, you know what? I don't even want to do that. I don't want to sit in the hotel bathroom. I want to go walk around. And so was it a missed opportunity? I don't know. I just didn't want to actually do it. And my boyfriend didn't want to either. But in the past, I would definitely have been like, oh my gosh, we have to fill this up and get champagne and make an extra big deal about it because I'm trying to get some kind of fulfillment after all the trying I've been doing. This time I was like, I don't need to do that. I already knew what I wanted to do. Not that doing that is bad. Maybe in the future I want to do that, but I knew myself, and I knew it wasn't like this conflicted thing where I'm like, should I do this? Should I do this? I just like, I want to do this. I want to do that. And it's not like I was my way or the highway at anything like this at all. I was very open. In fact, because I felt so good about myself and because I was so peacefully chill with who I was, if there was anything that came up, there was something spontaneous and expected that came up, or something that actually kind of made me a little uncomfortable, I was so much better equipped to deal with that emotionally and mentally and spiritually and everything, because I wasn't all up in my head having drama. So I am explaining this over and over because I know that in the past I would have just been like, I think I need to just make everything perfect in order for people to like me, because there's no way. I just be really selfish. It would just seem really bad to everyone else. I would be in my own world. I wouldn't know how to cater to anyone else. Everyone else would just think I'm self-absorbed. It's not the way it happens when you're genuinely doing it for yourself. It's not that I was completely out of touch with things. I was very in touch with things. It's just that I wasn't so overreactive to everything because I was taking care of myself. Because I had worked on finding my identity all these years. I just wanted to share this in hopes that it would give you some insight, some real life insight into my own journey, into your own journey, and however it is that is manifesting for you, and to think about your own life in a new way, and to know that the way you envision it when you are free, when you're actually having your own identity, and how peaceful and fun and relaxed it is. And it might feel crazy to think about it now. It might feel wild to think about it now, like that's some fantasy land, because I definitely would have felt like that back in the day. It is 100% possible. You are going to get there once you relax into yourself. Take the attention back from everybody else because it's not working. It is not working. And to turn it onto yourself and focus on learning and being and loving yourself and allowing yourself to be yourself. And another thing I have to mention is that I hired my own life coach, Jacqueline Gates, and others that allowed me to feel like I am being seen by somebody who wants me to be myself. And so if this is something that you feel like you need, because human connection is so important, it really helped to have someone to talk to. And she's like, no, you're totally making sense. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. She's like, you're absolutely not crazy. You're doing everything perfectly. And just to have someone else who has been there and who is specialized in this tell me that I'm doing it right. After years and years of feeling like I was doing everything wrong by being myself, it was so healing to my soul. And that is why this is what I do in my own coaching. I am here to help you understand and see what is special and attractive and uniquely lovable for you and how you take yourself and be yourself in your own life. And maybe you can't conceive of that right now because you've never done it before. You don't know the nuances and the details of what that would even look like. And that is what I help you with. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you out. We worked together for a year and you're going to come out on the other side feeling like you can look back on this whole transformation and seeing, whoa, I'm able to go and do things that a year ago I completely was so anxious and struggling with. And I really wanted to believe that I just had to be myself and I would get what I want. And now that I'm just doing things that feel like me and make sense to me, I am actually experiencing my whole life in a whole new, beautiful way. This trip was very healing for me, and it really confirmed all the work that I do. It is powerful. It is beautiful. It is the best thing you could ever do for yourself. So I encourage you, believe that there is a new way of living down the road, that this is not who you truly are. You are not this bundle of anxiety and self-consciousness and somebody who gets their identity from the outside world. This is not who you truly are. When you are truly being yourself, you become the person you've always wanted to be, the one who's just naturally engaged, the one who has this quiet, peaceful inner self-confidence, the one who is in a good mood, the one who is chill when starts to go wrong instead of freaking out. It is possible. And I want you to think about that and believe in that this week. All right, everyone. Talk to you next week on episode 20. All right. Have a good one. Bye.